Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be getting into Black Lives Matter, the organization, and why I feel that the organization is completely corrupt from the top all the way down to the bottom. Let's get right into this video. So back in 2020, when the whole George Floyd situation happened, I was still pretty much on the left or left-leaning, and I definitely fell into the whole narrative that the media gave to us, right? That protests needed to happen, that we needed grave police reform. I definitely was one of those people who posted a black square on my Instagram, and I was just totally buying the narrative that change was needed and that BLM, Black Lives Matter, was necessary. And I was completely on board with the whole mission and the idea of BLM, the organization, because in my opinion, they were trying to fight for police reform, and what we saw was horrific that day. And I remember Candace Owens tweeting some stuff about George Floyd and the whole situation, and at the time I was pretty upset. I was like, who does she think she is? She's a bully. What is wrong with her? Why is she victim shaming this person? She's way out of touch. She's self-hating. I can't stand her. Like, I pretty much could not stand the sight of Candace Owens, much less her tweets. Fast forward to 3 years later, when I've completely changed my perspective on so much. I've been red-pilled, and I definitely have a more, I guess I want to say, a more well-rounded view of things, including BLM and the George Floyd situation. Now, I came across a documentary on the Daily Wire that Candace Owens is a part of. It was her production, called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. And it's really breaking down BLM, the organization, George Floyd, how George Floyd was used, how his face was used to propagate an agenda and to really make BLM, the organizers, filthy rich. And we're going to go through some pretty important areas of this documentary. Of course, I can't react to the entire documentary, so I'm going to just pick out some parts that I feel are really pivotal to the message to really describe why I no longer support the BLM organization. So let's get right into the first clip.
Hello, Alvin Monego, and I'm George Floyd's previous roommate.
When was the first time you met George?
Well, I first met him in 2017. We ended up knowing each other. He was in a treatment center, and I actually was there too, but I was there for the alcohol, and, he was having problems with the pain pills.
The Floyd that I knew in this house was a good person. And if he did do something bad, he hid it from us. He didn't do it around us. If he did it out there, he did it out there. That's his business. And if he did have addiction out there, he left it in the streets. He never brought it home.
Sometimes a little urge to get something stronger to kill the pain.
A lot of people maybe came out of the woodwork because there was an opportunity, to grandstand, to be on stage, to, a lot of money got thrown around, which is part of what I'm exploring in this documentary. I mean, Black Lives Matter Global Network came out and said, we raised $90 million plus, and they did this with his face. Just his face, or saying you had some association with him, could have gotten, garnered a lot of people money. Do you think that people took advantage of him?
And sometimes when I went to the George Floyd Memorial, it was different individuals going around there and saying donations for this, for Floyd, for this, and
Yeah.
you didn't know where they was coming from. You got a little metal box, and I don't know who you are. Where is this going?
To meet with the president and the vice president, and for them to show their concern to our family, and for them to actually give an ear to our concerns.
I ain't never met a sister. I ain't never met a brother. None of them ever came here. And Floyd been living in this house. We've been in this house going on 6 years, am I right?
Yeah. But for the 4 years, no. He just...
They never wanted his stuff. I mean, I would think that if my
They didn't
son,
even come and look
daughter,
and see where the man lived at. They never came to see where Floyd lived. They never came and get none of his stuff. Nothing.
So I thought it was pretty fascinating that George Floyd lived with two other people. And I feel like the media purposefully kind of left out the fact that he had struggled with substance abuse prior, in his past, because I guess they didn't want that to be a distraction over what happened, which I totally understand and I get that. But I think that it's important to know that he was someone that was dealing with addiction, sadly enough. And addiction is a disease, by the way. And it was something that he was constantly struggling with. And if you watch the documentary, they go even deeper with his roommates. Another part of this portion of the documentary that really shocked me was the fact that His family never once went to George Floyd's home, either when he was alive or when he passed.
We shared this place, right? And we went half on everything, you know, the rent, light, gas. So when it happened to Floyd, everything fell back on me and Alvin. So
We got a car out there, it's just sitting there. We couldn't do nothing with it because he didn't.
We don't have
We don't
the
have
title.
the title. They won't take it or move it.
It is just shocking to me because of how much money was raised to think that where he lived, the bills weren't being covered.
Nobody picked up his belongings. Nobody met with his roommates. Nobody went to his house. Like, I'm thinking of myself, right? And if, God forbid, one of my siblings was killed in this way, the first thing I would do is go to where they lived to pick up their stuff. If I'm being real, it just felt like, why? Like, how close were you guys if his belongings are still at his old residence? Like, nobody has picked it up even to this day. I think it plays a role because the media gets to control the narrative. And whatever narrative they put out is what we, as the viewers, take in.
Grew up in Kenya.
How long have you lived in Minneapolis?
So I think this is the part of the documentary, personally, where it really affected me the most and really made me really upset.
I came to Minneapolis in May of 1997, so it's been 27 years.
27 years.
Yes.
What was this city before the George Floyd riots?
Well, it was just a typical Midwestern city with low crime and hardworking people, and we just lived here and enjoyed
You are
life.
now entering the free state of George Floyd. What does that mean?
It means this is an autonomous zone, and it operates outside the laws of United States. And anything that happens here is run by a community, and they do whatever they want.
They do whatever they want. How is that allowed in the United States?
Well, I think anything goes here. We've seen death. We've seen a man shot right in front of us. We've seen a woman who was pregnant shot right in front of us.
Is there ever going to be life again on this street?
Well, I feel like there has been a tremendous loss of the way of life here has changed, the economy, the destruction of businesses. Most of the businesses here that were destroyed, the insurance would not be able to cover that.
Right.
And so it's a hard thing for people to rebuild themselves.
I guess I would have assumed when Black Lives Matter announced that they raised over $90 million, who knows how much over, on the back of the George Floyd riots and the sprees. Where is that money?
I don't know. It's not here. Everything looks worse than it was.
Is it possible that Black America was sort of used as a front, and the emotions that Black America was feeling was used as a front, and this money went probably maybe not to Black people at all, anywhere in the world?
So many elements of people who took advantage of the death of George Floyd to stir up the emotions for political gain, for financial gain, and to propagate division, because some of these organizations that raise money, they can only get money if they propagate hatred.
I mean, we're looking at Minnesota, we're looking at the streets of where George Floyd once lived, and it looks like a freaking war zone. Zero funds. Zero funds have been put in by the BLM organization who raised $90 million on George Floyd's face. Zero of that money has gone back to where he lived, his community. Where's the money at? Where is the money at? Well, this next part of the documentary is going to explain exactly where the money went. So Black Lives Matter released their 990 IRS filings, and of course, I wanted to jump right into it and find out exactly what happened to the approximate $80 million that was raised by them between July 1st of 2020 and June 30th, 2021. Patrisse Cullors came forth and also admitted that she hired both her mother and her brother to work at the property. What sort of work, you ask? Well, Patrisse Cullors' brother, Paul Cullors, is a graffiti artist by trade. That's what he's done his entire life. He's done graffiti. Patrisse instead hired her brother to do security for her. She paid Paul $840,000
$100,000. That's almost $1 million in just 1 year to her graffiti artist brother, his newly established security firm. Now, that makes her a great sister, but perhaps she's an even better baby mama because Patrice also gave funding from Black Lives Matter to take care of the man who fathered her son. His name is Damon Turner, and he received $970,000 from BLM to his company Trap Heels LLC. Also suspicious is the fact that Black Lives Matter designated a whopping $8 million to an out-of-country grant. What? I thought this charity was about addressing police brutality in the United States. Apparently, to do that, you need to send $8 million to Toronto, Canada, to an organization named M4BJ. They purchased a $6.3 million, 10,000 square foot downtown property in Toronto. And I should also mention that M4BJ is run by Patrice's wife, Janaya Khan, because it is. She is the co-founder, believe it or not, and here's where it gets really interesting. Janaya Khan is gender non-conforming. These terms can be quite sensitive, so let me just use photos to illustrate my point. Janaya used to look like this, and now she looks like this. Now that information would be entirely irrelevant if it wasn't for the way that Patrisse Cullors saw it fit to spend the rest of Black Lives Matter's money. Ready for some BLM pride? Well, according to their IRS form, $200,000 went to the Transgender Justice Funding Project. Another $200,000 went to the Transgender United Fund. Another $200,000 went to the Transgendered Law Center. Another $200,000 went to Black Transgendered Media. Another $200,000 went to the Transgendered Variant and Intersex Justice Project. Another $200K went to the Transgendered District. By the way, if you're wondering what that is purportedly going to be the all transgender district, and I guess that's really, really important for Black America advancement in society, I guess, or whatever. Another $200K went to the St. James Infirmary. That organization, by the way, is for, according to their website, it's run by sex workers and is for them. Specifically, escorts, BDSM workers, strippers, peep show workers, phone sex operators, and webcam performers. It was actually the St. James Infirmary that created the Transgendered District. So that's just an organization within another organization, which, by the way, you see a lot of when you go through these documents. So yeah, going to be apparently great big things involving sex workers in the future for Black America. In continuation, the Center for Halstead received $200,000 from Black Lives Matter. They are Chicago's community center dedicated to securing the health and well-being of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, and queer people of Chicago. Similarly, we have the Audre Lorde Project, which received $200,000, and according to their website, they are a lesbian, gay, bisexual, two-spirit, trans, and gender nonconforming people of color community organizing center. Another $400,000 went to Transgender Advocates Knowledgeable Empowering, or TAKE, as it's known for short. The founder of that organization is a transgendered individual by the name of Daranicia Duncan Boyd. All of the organizations that I just mentioned, none of them, not one, is up to date on filing a tax return with the IRS, which is required for charities, because charities, remember, they don't pay taxes. In other words, I'm not able to tell you how any of these transgendered organizations spent the money that BLM poured into their organizations during the 2020 and 2021 tax year.
So that's where all of the BLM money that was raised went to. Now, I want to make something very clear. I don't have a problem with donating money to transgender causes or LGBTQIA causes. If that's what you want to do with your money, go right ahead. But the point is that people who donated their money to BLM thought that they were donating their money to a cause that was going to stop police brutality, that was going to help Black Americans, that was going to pour into Black culture and Black communities, schools, districts, churches, what have you. And instead, what Patrisse Cullors donated the money to was to herself, to her brother. to her mom, to her baby daddy, to her friends, to Wall Street, and most importantly, transgendered issues. I mean, that's where the money, majority of the money went to, which I find to be really interesting because I'm pretty sure that the people who donated their money thought that it was going to something different. And she was not transparent about that at all. And that is the problem. Not to mention the fact that she bought a $6 million home in a white gated community. Now, I don't care where you want to live, and that's your prerogative, but her whole ideology is that black people are not safe in white spaces. Yet she chose to buy a home in a white neighborhood that is gated. That was her choice. That blows my mind to me. That blows my mind. You know, when Candace Owens breaks down the actual taxes and the information, you can't really argue that. You can't really refute it. You can't really debate that because those are facts. That's where the money went to. Yeah, I think the BLM organization is corrupt. I think they misused the money for their own agenda. They purposefully used George Floyd's face as the selling point, which is disgusting to me. They've given no money to his family. They've given no money to the community that he lived in. They've given no money to actual black organizations. They've not been transparent. I mean, like, if you're still giving money to BLM, I'm sorry, but you are a fool. And this is why I no longer support BLM, because the organization is corrupt. I guess I would just encourage you to do your own research. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research and figure things out for yourself and be a free thinker. If you enjoyed this content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I am at 14,000 subscribers now, which is insane to me. I'm so blessed and happy to have you guys on board with me, supporting me. So thank you so much. If you also want to support me, you can also follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, where I am being canceled every single day just for you. Until next time, guys, peace.